There's an overwhelming amount of information out there about how to go motorcycle camping. I should know, I created like half of it. So I thought it might be helpful if you're thinking about going moto camping for the first time to just cut through the bullshit and give you a short, concrete list of steps to follow to prepare for and get out and be successful on your very first motorcycle camping trip. Step 1. Gear. I'm assuming you already have a motorcycle and some kind of riding gear. If not, I hear that Dork in the Road channel is a pretty good place to get some information on stuff like that. But I'm talking about camping gear. There's 4 essentials you need to make sure that you've covered. The first of which is shelter. For most new motorcycle campers or campers in general, that's going to be a tent. You can do a hammock, things like that, but they're more complicated. A tent is going to be the cheapest and easiest option and the one that most people are familiar with. Maybe you already have one. Maybe you have an old Walmart tent. Maybe you're a car camper and you have a tent from that. A cheap tent like a Walmart tent can work, can get you started. It's not going to work all year, but it'll keep the bugs off you and keep you out of the wind on your first camping trip. Motocamp Nerd also sells the Featherstone tents, which is like a $100 tent, which is a great kind of entry-level tent if you're looking for one. If you want to buy something that will maybe last you a little longer, be a little bit higher quality, I recommend a 2-person backpacking tent. Motocamp Nerd has the Alps Mountaineering Zephyr, Felis, and Helix. The REI Half Dome 2 is a good example of that, but you can spend $200-ish and get a decent tent that has the potential to last you for a long time, or at least until you're ready to upgrade to something else. Regardless of what you choose, you need a tent. That's item number 1, some kind of shelter. We have a whole video about choosing a tent. If you want more information, I'll link that for you. The second essential you're gonna need to cover is sleep setup. That means a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, and probably a pillow unless you're hardcore and want to use your jacket. Some people do that. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not your dad. Do your own thing. Everybody thinks the sleeping bag is the most important piece of that setup, but I would argue that the pad is, because you lose the most temperature to the ground and it has the biggest impact on whether or not you're comfortable at night. I like the Big Agnes Divide Insulated. It's a little over $100. It's got a good R value. It's a thick pad. It'll stand up and take a beating. I ran mine over with a 4Runner and I'm still sleeping on it. That's a good place to start, but you can spend less money if you want to go out and buy a Climate or something like that, but I recommend sticking with the name brands and understand that the less you spend, the less R value you're gonna have. R value is insulation. It doesn't matter as much in the summer, but in the winter or in the shoulder seasons, you're definitely gonna want a higher R value pad. Cheap sleeping pads are not something I recommend just because there is nothing worse than waking up at 3 a.m. and realizing you're sleeping on the ground because your pad did not hold air. Sleeping bag, you can go with a cheap Walmart bag if you want. You may already have a sleeping bag. Just know that the less expensive bags are not gonna be as warm and they're not gonna pack as small. So you're gonna end up strapping a bunch of crap to your bike and have a big pile if you're buying cheaper gear. But if you just wanna get out there and dip your toes into the world of moto camping, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure it's securely packed. Good bags are expensive, but will be warmer and more compact. The Big Agnes Echo Park is one that I recommend as a sort of solid entry-level option. Very comfortable, the bed-like sleep with the zippers that zip down on both sides. That's actually in my best value moto camping kit video, which I can link for you. And a pillow. I like the Nemo pillow. It's my favorite moto camping pillow, but it is $45. If you just want to roll up your jacket or sleep on a sweatshirt, you do you, boo. But I recommend some kind of pillow personally. I don't sleep well without one. So your 4 moto camping essentials. Number 1, shelter. Number 2, sleep setup. Number 3, something to drink. That's water. So if you're going to a campground that has water on site, all you need is something to carry that water from the water source to your campsite. You could take an old milk jug, wash it out, rinse it out, smash it down, put it in your bag if you want. They make collapsible containers that are super easy and cheap. You can buy those at Walmart or whatever. Or you can go as far as to buy one of the nicer backpacking water bladders that Motocamp Nerd sells. If you're dispersed camping for the very first time you're going camping, you crazy lunatic, you're gonna have to bring your water with you or bring some way to purify it. I like the Giant Loop Cactus Canteen. That's my favorite way to carry water on the motorcycle. Nalgene bottles are cheaper. Those also work. They're just bulkier, but people will get a ton of use out of them. They're very rugged, but have some way of getting water to your campsite. And the number 4 essential is something to eat. Easiest way to meet that one is to go to a restaurant. Camp somewhere near town, just go to McDonald's in the evening. You're still gonna want snacks while you're riding and some kind of emergency snacks food in camp. You should always be prepared just in case something goes wrong and you end up somewhere longer than you intended to be. But if you wanna cook in camp, the easiest way to do that is with some sort of water boiling setup. I like a jet boil because I use it to make coffee. It's a French press in the morning, but any kind of little pocket rocket stove or even a campfire if you wanna go crazy, and you could boil water on that. But if you wanna do a dehydrated meal, you gotta be able to boil water. So you need a dehydrated meal, some way to boil water, and a spork. A long-handled one is what I recommend. A lot easier to eat those things with the long-handled one. I've seen videos of people just like dumping them in their mouth. Don't do that, that sucks. Take a freaking spork, they're not that big. That's the 4 essentials for moto camping gear. Motocamp Nerd has a full moto camping pack list. If you want it as a reference, it's on the website. I'll link that for you in the description. Step 1 is get your gear. Step 1.5 is figure out how you're gonna pack it all on the motorcycle. I'm guessing you're not gonna have a full set of fancy soft luggage on your bike already, but a backpack will work. You can either wear it or strap it to the bike. You could strap a big duffel bag to your bike. I started out with a $15 Walmart dry bag and my tent strapped to the back of my Versus 650. That actually had factory panniers, so if you have a bike with factory panniers, that makes this even easier, but you're gonna have to figure out how to strap all that gear to your bike in a way that doesn't interfere with your safe operation of the motorcycle, so figure that out. Obviously, you can't go camping without your moto camping gear. Step 1 is gear. Step 2 is location. Figure out where you're gonna go. I recommend finding the closest campground to your house and going straight there. Go there ahead of time and scout it out. Make sure that it doesn't totally suck. Side note, if you really want a real easy shakedown run, you can always just set your gear up in your backyard and sleep out there. If you have anxiety about your gear working, because if it sucks, you can always go inside, and that's that, then you know. But I recommend close campground. Go there and check the place out first. How far away is it? How long is it gonna take you to get there? Are there spots that are better than others? Do some have access to water? Are some closer to the bathroom? Are some farther from the other campers? That's a big one I always look for. Are some closer to the camp host where you're gonna get firewood and stuff? What kind of bathrooms are in the campground? Are you flushing toilets and gonna be able to wash your hands, or do you need to bring wet wipes and things like that? Everything you can do to kind of get a solid picture of what the camping experience is gonna look like in your head before you go will alleviate your anxieties. So go check out the place, scout out a few spots, maybe even try to get home and reserve one that you thought was pretty good as soon as you can. If there's one that's close to town, that's even better because you can run to town if you forget stuff, or just go to McDonald's for dinner if you're hungry and you want something like that. Step 1, figure out your gear. Step 2, figure out where you're going. Step 3, go camping. That's it. Get your gear on your bike and go to the campground and camp in the campground. I advise arriving early, so if check-in time is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're gonna wanna get there around that time. It just gives you more time to get figured out where you wanna put everything, get through any mishaps or mistakes you might make in setting up your setup, figure out what you wanna do, and then once everything's kind of settled, it gives you time to relax. The whole point of going out there is to relax, so you want to have time to do that. If you want to have a fire while you're moto camping, which I recommend as long as it's not banned, we have a whole video on how to get firewood while moto camping, so check that one out if you need more information. So those are the 3 steps. Get your gear figured out, figure out where you're gonna go, and go. Seems simple, but sometimes you just need like a concrete path paved for you by someone who's done the thing before. You just need to know what to do because you don't know what you don't know. So here's what you need to know. Figure out your gear, cover the 4 essentials, figure out where you're gonna go, reserve a site if you can, and then go do it. Arrive as early as you can, enjoy it. Here are some bonus tips or things to be aware of for your first time motorcycle camping. 1, sleeping outside on the ground for the first time probably won't be awesome. You probably won't sleep well. You're gonna be paranoid, you're gonna wake up at every little noise. It's called first night syndrome or something like that. Basically, your first night sleeping in a new place, you don't sleep well because it's an instinct from the days when we had to worry about predators hunting us down. It's even more so when you're sleeping outside with just a tent between you and all the bears you're imagining outside your tent. So you're probably not gonna sleep well. You're probably not going to be super comfortable, but that's part of the experience, and trust me, it gets better, both the paranoia and you just get more used to your setup, you get better at your setup. So it'll get better. Your first night sleeping in the woods will be the worst night you'll ever have sleeping in the woods, hopefully. You're going to forget something, that's perfectly normal, just make a note and bring it next time. You're also going to bring stuff you don't need. Again, just make a note and don't bring it next time. Packing well is something that takes practice, and probably the setup that you fit into your bags perfectly at home is not going to fit as perfectly when you go to pack it up at the campsite. That's also perfectly normal. My favorite tip, if you're planning to enjoy a few beverages of the type that inebriate you, do step 1, that is set up camp, before step 2, which is start drinking. Don't ask me how I know about that one. Something else to keep in mind, you will probably get bored at some point. Lean into it, enjoy it. Not having anything to do is the point of going camping. You can always jump on your bike and ride, assuming you haven't done step 2 yet, if you get super bored. And the last thing to remember, the tip that you need to internalize if you want to make sure that your first moto camping trip goes well, is relax and enjoy it. Get out there, get your stuff set up, sit down, and just relax, unplug, unwind, just be in the moment. That is the point of camping, and don't get so wrapped up in the anxiety of your first trip that you forget to do the things that make it enjoyable so that you'll want to go again. So to recap, here are the 3 things you need to do. 1, get your gear. That is a tent or other shelter, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, pillow, water transport, and some kind of cooking or food setup. Number 2, figure out how you're going to carry all that gear. Number 3, find a spot close by and check it out ahead of time, maybe even reserve a spot. And number 4, go camping. Put your gear on your bike and go camping. Don't forget, whether it's your first step into the world of moto camping or you've been living here with us for years, Moto Camp Nerd is your one-stop resource for moto camping gear and advice. Subscribe to the channel and check out our other videos. And don't forget to pop over to the website and check out the world's largest specially curated collection of motorcycle camping gear. Moto Camp Nerd has all the gear you need so you can pack small and camp easy. I'll see you out there.